I was going to do is just talk through a bit about how I came up with this split, which is the three-page theme with prevention. The first panel basically is about the fact that when I was at university, one of the two questions that I answered in my degree, one was about personal identity, and the other one was Plato's tripartite of the soul. I'll come back to that later. The second panel, this happened about 10 years ago. I had a mental health crisis, yet another one. And I was given an emergency referral to see a psychiatrist who basically wanted to see my mother. This is basically the story about what happened. The third panel, the first one with black outline, was basically how I came up with this story, because I thought it would be interesting and funny to have me as a child saying I am a master of the universe, which is the first line of lyric of Hawkins' track, Master of the Universe, which I just thought that this was an amusing way to start, and sort of highlighted the fact that I was definitely a bit of a primary school. The fourth panel on page 1 was pretty much what my mum was telling my psychiatrist, Dr. Rowell, who I didn't realise at the time was obviously fishing for information. There was a reason why he wanted to speak to my mother. The fifth panel was some of the descriptions of the problems that I had all of my adult life until I got proper treatment. The next panel, the sixth panel, is the next factor that was important, was how significant and what impact that my Catholic upbringing had on it, which was quite profound, really. The next panel, so previous to Dr. Rowell wanting to speak to my mother, he put me on antipsychotic medication and confirmed my diagnosis that I had previously of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. But he also asked me in the next panel, the final panel, page 1, this is literally the question that he answered: when do you think you last had good concentration? Because I kept complaining that I just couldn't do anything. The next panel continues the story of my problems with at secondary school. As my school friend here will testify. We were not, I was not a well-behaved pupil, just always getting into trouble. The next panel, second panel, page 2, is also true. In front of my mother, I actually made a joke that was asked about good concentration, and it literally was. I literally said it was a party where I was giving some speech, and it was just a dumb joke. This panel also has a certain poignancy because my mother had absolutely no idea what speed was, and she told me just pretty much before she died. She said to me that my drug taking problems with drugs had really hurt her, and I never considered it would have an impact on it hurt me. I had a terrible time. That's what you should see. But anyway, Dr. Rowell in the third panel picked up on it. He wanted to know what it was, and I was saying, well, it was just a joke. I was just being silly. He basically latched onto this. The next panel, the fourth panel, two factors that were really important and what basically happened to me. I was basically a very, very immature person, and I was basically also smoking marijuana, taking drugs at university, and obviously it's pretty obvious now why I was doing it. The next two panels basically the explanation of what happened at the party, and it calmed me down. I was really chilled out. Everybody else was dancing. I just picked off a book. I sat in the corner and literally started reading Homer's The Odyssey. The next panel is the key panel. This was the second LSD trip that I took, and a microdot is a type of LSD. I was given half of it from some friends on the 25th of January 1992, and basically I went completely psychotic. I was hallucinating both mentally and visually. whilst all the other people that I dropped LSD with were not having any of the experiences that I was having. I got completely out of control. This panel is, obviously the things that I'm saying I should explain this, are the lyrics, the next lyrics of Master of the Universe by Lawther. But they seem to fit in with every panel that I wanted to say about the build-up to what was happening. In this panel, the second panel, my friend Pete literally said to me, he was trying to remind me that I was tripping and that what I was experiencing was the result of drugs rather than anything else. The next two panels were the diagnosis that I received based on the information that my psychiatrist received. The diagnosis was hyperactivity disorder, which I sort of knew, I heard of, but I did not see this coming at all. The first panel on page 3 is what happened after a few days after the second LSD trip, because unfortunately I stayed up and was basically taken to hospital and remained in hospital for 5 months. Whereas this was in 1992. The next panel, the significance of this panel, this is from the comic series Oddsock, which is, like the panel says, is basically the story and symbols of the build-up to my nervous breakdown. The reason I chose this panel, the reason that the character has strings, is that during my second LSD trip, everybody turned into puppets and everybody was on strings, and the strings went up to infinity. And basically, I was experiencing the sensation that everybody was being controlled by me from heaven. And the third panel is my surprise at my diagnosis. And my first diagnosis in 1992 was cognitive psychosis, with I was basically fatty. Then I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's a mood disorder because my mood was jumping up and down. It always had done. And then the third diagnosis, just before I was discharged, was schizoaffective disorder, which is basically schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So, the next panel, fairly self-explanatory. That was literally a question that I was asked in hospital before my discharge. How do I feel about being diagnosed with schizophrenia? I have no idea to this day how I'm supposed to answer a question like that. What sort of information they're looking for. The next two panels is basically what happened next, that I was prescribed methylphenidate, which is essentially speed. It's a stimulant. The next panel is fairly self-explanatory, and then the final panel is another key panel from Oddsock. Oddsock goes up to heaven after he's pulled up by the strings. Now there's a few things that I just want to specifically talk about with the string. Is that because the guidelines were a 3-page story, I wanted to make 3 an integral part, an integral phase of the story. Because I find 3 not in a numerology sort of astrology sort of, but I think the 3 is a very interesting number. And I did mathematics and philosophy at university. So the first panel obviously has 3 faces of Oddsock, with the question of which one is his actual identity, which obviously relates to part of the song, the question that I attempted to answer in the philosophy paper. And the question about identity was what makes a person the person that he is. The other thing is that there are 3 stories here. There is the story of the 3 panels of Oddsock and the story of Oddsock. And then there's the story, the build-up to my nervous breakdown in the darker panels. And then there's the story of the consultancy with the psychiatrist. I also deliberately had 3 joined hands. If you look at the bottom left panel of page 1, there's the joined hands in prayer. And then the second one, the first panel of page 3 is the joined hands of love. And then the immediate panel below is the joined hands of judgment, because obviously they were judging me whether I was fit to release or well enough to leave hospital. And this ties in with the see my diagnosis, you notice that the hand is just slightly going outside of the box. The second one is obviously the one that I just mentioned, the strings that go straight out to the edge of the page, and then it's the final panel, basically no outline. The reason being that this was the idea that basically the truth is, I believe that the truth is objective to us outside of the reality that we experience, which is generally suddenly put the psychiatrist's hand just pointing slightly outside of as he's pointing to the truth, which is obviously the diagnosis, which was clearly correct. The strings I've mentioned because they're going up to heaven, and then when the character actually meets God, for obviously he's not there, like you see God, as it were, outside the corner of your eye. I've got Oddsock 1 to 8 for sale, 12 quid. I'm trying to get rid of them, I want to reprint them in a book. But after it will continue. From time to time, that basically becomes a semi-autobiographical account of my time in hospital, the people that I met, the other sort of psychiatric astronauts, and what the impact it had on the family. It basically becomes the story of my time in hospital and ultimate discharge. My one and only graphic novel that I planned will also be with loads of breakdown in Oddsock, and the graphic novel will intersect. There are obviously crossover, but that was basically the thinking behind the script. And obviously the theme was that once I got the proper medication, once I was back on antipsychotics, and I got, my life basically became normal. I basically stopped drinking more or less. Drugs helped, appealed to me, and I had lots of drug problems. The reason I stopped taking antipsychotic medication on my discharge is that it was basically sedating me too much and I couldn't do anything. And I don't think it was the right there's a bit of an art to take the right medication for the right person. And it was obviously the right medication. And unilaterally I decided to stop taking antipsychotic medication, which was obviously a big mistake. The other thing is lots of people tell me that I was clearly not suffering from schizophrenia, and I didn't believe that I suffered from schizophrenia because the people who suffer from schizophrenia when I was not like that. So I basically didn't believe that I thought the drugs was my problem, and so I would take it. When I had my mental health crisis, the GP asked me what was going on, and I basically told him what was going on in my head and everything, and I said, I've been diagnosed with suffering from schizophrenia. I don't believe I'm suffering from schizophrenia. And he stopped typing, and he turned to me and said, why do you think that? And I said, because I don't hear voices. And he literally looked me in the eye and said, what you've just described is the literal definition, textbook definition of schizophrenia. I realised that from 22 in 1992 when I had a nervous breakdown, the first nervous breakdown, to 45, happened 10 years ago, that basically I had been living my life. I had been in self-deception. It was when I got the medication, my life sort of ran, and I could start cartoon. My final thing, because my 15 minutes is up, is that comedy is actually my usual stuff. So I did this instead, and obviously it fits in the movie. If anybody wants extra copies, I think it's in the convention book. If anyone wants extra copies for anyone else, I've got plenty of them.